Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video of Keep It Simple Stupid. So today what I'll be discussing is the different blood types, and also I'll discuss why they are important, and of course we're going to go ahead and make it simple. So first of all, you're probably wondering, you've heard somebody maybe has type A blood, or type B blood, or type O blood, and then you'll also hear if blood is positive or negative. An important quick distinction: someone can have type A blood, they can have type B blood, they could have type O blood, and then the important thing with Rh, this refers to if blood is positive or negative. Now, the presence of an Rh antigen will be positive, and if it's not there, it means they are negative. And lastly, someone can also have a blood type of A and B. All right, so now let's go ahead and dig a little bit deeper into why blood types are expressed this way. So now let's go ahead and break down why blood types are classified the way they are. Now, here's my little basic drawing here. So the first thing you'll need to know is that this red circle, this is your RBC. And then that little A there coming off the red blood cell, that represents the A antigen. That green B is the B antigen. And then that little thing I have connected to the B antigen is the anti-B antibody. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down. So this example I have right here, this represents an individual who has type A blood. And how exactly do we know that? So for someone to have type A blood, that means they are expressing the A antigen on the surface of their red blood cell. Now, here's an important thing to know, that if someone has type A blood, it also means that they have the anti-B antibody circulating in their blood. And what that means is that because they have the anti-B antibody, they're not expressing the B antigen on their red blood cell. And I think from my standpoint, it's a little bit helpful to understand that if someone has type A blood, on one hand, that means they have the A antigen. On the other hand, that means that they have the anti-B antibody circulating in their blood. Now, here's our second example. Now, you can go ahead and guess what blood type you think this might be. But this example here, this is someone with a blood type of B. And what I'm demonstrating here by drawing that little green B is that this is someone who has the B antigen expressed on the surface of the red blood cell. And what I'm also demonstrating over here is that this person is not expressing the A antigen because they have the anti-A antibody drawn here circulating in their bloodstream. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next example. Now, this is someone who has type AB blood. So what that means is they have both the A antigen and the B antigen expressed on the surface of the red blood cells. But also, what someone with this blood type can tell you is that if they have type AB blood, it means that their body is not producing either the anti-A antibody or the anti-B antibody. And then our final example right here, you can probably guess what it is. So this is someone with type O blood. And what type O blood is that we do not see the A antigen or the B antigen expressed on the surface of their red blood cells. And again, what that also tells us is that that means that they have both, and I've drawn this over here as an example, they have both the anti-A antibody and the anti-B antibody in their blood, which is why they don't have either of these antigens expressed on the red blood cells. Now we're going to go ahead and discuss when you hear that a blood type is positive or negative. All right, so when you hear that a blood type is positive, what that means is that on their red blood cells, they express the Rh antigen. And if someone is negative, as you guessed it, they're not expressing the Rh antigen. An important thing to understand about the Rh antigen compared to A and B is that if somebody is Rh negative, that does not mean they have an antibody against Rh. Only refers to the expression of that antigen on red blood cells. And where this becomes important is that if you think about, you have an Rh negative mother and an Rh positive fetus, when the mother gives birth to the first child, there won't be a transfusion mismatch reaction. And the reason for that is, even though the mother is Rh negative, the first time she's exposed to that Rh positive blood, that is when her body produces anti-Rh antibodies. So again, just because someone is Rh negative, that does not mean that they have anti-Rh antibodies in their blood, causing the lack of expression of Rh. I hope that was helpful. Now that I've broken those down, now we're going to discuss some of the basics of blood transfusion. Now, we have our person here who has type A blood, and we have our person with type B blood. So the reason that someone with type A blood cannot receive a transfusion from someone with type B blood. Because if you imagine you give this person with type A blood type B blood, well, we already know that person 1 over here, they have the anti-B antibodies. And then if you're giving blood from person 2 over here, well, this anti-B antibody floating around in their bloodstream is now going to attack the B antigen from the donor, right? And this applies vice versa as well. And what can happen is these antibodies can cause something called agglutination, which can be very bad, and we're not going to get into it for the scope of this lecture, but again, it's important to understand that for why certain blood types cannot be given to other blood types. And then very quickly here, I'll be discussing the universal recipient. What do I mean by universal recipient? Is that somebody who has the type of blood that is AB positive, they can receive blood from anyone. And the question would be, why is that? Well, if you think about it, for somebody to have type AB positive blood, on one hand, you know that from the AB perspective, well, they're expressing A and B, so clearly their blood does not have either of the anti-A or anti-B antibodies. And also, if they're Rh positive, well, their body is already used to seeing Rh around, so if you give them someone with Rh positive blood, their immune system is going to think, okay, whatever, I'm used to that being in my blood anyway, so we're not going to have a reaction to it. And that brings us to our next question. So we know what the universal recipient is, but what is the universal donor? And the universal donor is going to be O negative. Why is O negative a universal donor? Well, if you think about this red blood cell, look at it, I mean, it's basically bare, right? There's no antigens on it for any antibodies to attack. So let's think about it. So if you gave this to someone with type A blood, they have anti-B antibodies. Well, that's fine because there's no B expressed on this. Say we give it to someone with type B blood. Well, we know that this person with type B blood has anti-A antibodies, but hey, it doesn't matter because there's no A here for this to attack. And then on the same token, there is no Rh factor expressed on this red blood cell. So you can give it to someone who's negative or positive, and it doesn't matter because if the recipient is, for example, A negative, well, it doesn't matter because there's no Rh expressed on this to cause any issue. Guys, I hope that all made sense. A little bit of a longer video today. As always, like, comment, subscribe. If there's any topics you would like me to cover, please let me know. Always happy to do video requests. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time.